Welcome back to Making a Murder in my journal, and we have some very interesting news. We have received Teresa Halbach's autopsy report through the Freedom of Information Act. The RD researchers have been applying for many records, and some of them are coming through. So we also have a bone report that will be done on a later date. But I wanted to start with this one, and so with that, let's get started. So, Teresa's autopsy report is 3 pages long, and it is put out by the University of Wisconsin Medical School, and it comes from the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. The autopsy number is W05-570F, named Teresa M. Halbach. Pertinent numbers to the DCI case number 05-1776. She is age 25. The coroner service was Calumet County. Sex female. Assistant none. Date remains reportedly found November 8th through the 10th, 2005. Identification. ID via DNA analysis, crime lab number M05-2487. Time of examination, November 17th, 2005. Initiated at 4 p.m. Facility, Michael A. Stryer, MD. And this is dated 5/23/06. As always with this case, we have a time issue. So look at the death certificate. It's 11/10/2005 that it is noted. And then let's look at this autopsy report. 5/23/2006. 6 months after they sign the death certificate, they do the autopsy. And it's pending on results. DNA results that are gonna... Atomic diagnosis. Number 1. Numerous fragments of bones examined. A. Charred bone fragments consistent with fire effect. B. Multiple radioplaque objects identified radiographically. C. Detailed skeletal analysis conducted by Dr. Leslie Eisenberg, forensic anthropologist. And number 2. Correlation with all case information is warranted. It's then followed by a comment. Several containers of charred bony remains are examined. The exam consists of a gross examination as well as a radiographic exam. This is done in conjunction with forensic anthropologist Dr. Leslie Eisenberg. For details on the skeletal exam, refer to the forensic anthropologist report. Assuming the bony fragments are human and belong to one individual, the individual is in a deceased condition. What? Okay, well, let's reread that. Assuming the bony fragments are human and belong to one individual, the individual is in a deceased condition. So we're needing to assume that the bones are human and that they belong to one individual. I need a moment. Okay. Why in the world? Okay, no. Let's just go, okay, guys? Page 2. Autopsy number W05-570F. Name Teresa Halbach. Identification. Identification of fragments as to a particular individual are dependent upon DNA and other analyses. Identification of the remains examined at the time of this exam are from inscription on the container as well as persons present at the exam. See below. Okay, let's talk about that. So the identification of the remains examined at the moment that they're doing this autopsy are based on somebody writing on the container whose bones they are. Okay. So we have numerous witnesses here to show that this indeed was being watched, that they are reading the name off of the container as the identification. And we have a number of students, as well as we have James Holmes, DCI Special Agent, Lisa Wilson, DCI Special Agent, Margaret Kesenich, RTR, and Leslie Eisenberg, PhD. Wow, you guys. So you all saw them read the name on the box and identify the victim as such. Got it. You are all very qualified. Evidence and specimens, none retained by Dr. Stryer during this exam. Of course not. Why would we save a sample? We're not going to need it later. Photography and radiology. No post-mortem photographs are obtained at the time of this exam. Radiology is conducted at the VA hospital as outlined below. Okay, so why are you not documenting and retaining samples? What is it that you're trying to hide? This is a blatant choice being made to what? Hide the identity of the bones? Reported history. The remains examined are the probable remains of a descendant reportedly missing at the end of October 2005. The remains have subsequently been discovered over a period of days in Calumet County. Let's stop there a minute. Her bones were found in Calumet County? I don't think so. Her bones were found in Manitowoc County, so that's confusing. Let's continue. For additional details of the case, refer to DCI and other investigative authorities' reports. The exam is commenced at 4:10 p.m. on 11/17/05. The specimen container consists of a Ziploc bag, which has been sealed by evidence tape labeled LE 11/16/05. Let's stop there a minute. So she did not seal these until the 16th of the month. Why did she not seal each bag as they came in with the appropriate time and date stamp? Did she add them all into one bag and just seal them all in one bag? Because it states here that they were found over a few days. This is just poor work. She does not do her job properly. Continued. DCI case number is 05-1776. The seal is disrupted by Dr. Eisenberg. The first two fragments examined include two portions of apparent skull bone. The larger fragment of the two appears to have a semicircular defect along one edge. On the inner table of this fragment of probable partial bone, see Dr. Eisenberg's report, there does appear to be a uniform characteristic consistent with internal beveling. The opposing surface is also relatively uniform. However, there is a crescent defect which may represent an element of external beveling. These two fragments are opposable and appear to be part of the same bone. Radiography performed these two fragments discloses at least 4 hyperdense minute objects associated with the larger fragment. The next group of bones examined consists of 8 portions of probable skull bone as well. One of the group of 8 discloses minute hyperdense radioplaque particles. Further examination of this bone discloses a crescent defect consistent with internal beveling. The opposing surface of external table of this bone fragment is also notable for a crescent defect and some possible external beveling. So, even though they did not give us the copy of the actual x-ray, the hyperdense radioplaque particle x-rays, we went and got them, the RD researchers did, from the trial. And we have 2 exhibits that were shown. This is exhibit 398, and it's bone fragments that are x-rayed. And then also this one, which is exhibit 397. An additional and subsequent set of 12 fragments of bone are radiographed. Another of these also discloses a radioplaque dense fragment. A second group of additional 12 fragments is subsequently radiographed. 3 of these disclose radioplaque particles. The subsequent set of fragments to be radiographed consist of variable sized and shaped charred portions of bone, at the same time of this exam numbering 19. One of these also bears radioplaque areas. Another fragment of potential evidence is radiographed and has characteristics of non-biological component. Okay, let's stop there. What does that mean, non-biological? Man-made in her bones? Are we talking bullet? Are we talking fragment of possible murder weapon? I think that they should definitely dig into that. I hope they do. Let's continue. Autopsy number W05-570-F, named Teresa Halbach. Subsequent set of fragmented remains, which are too numerous to count because of their minute dimension of some disclosed associate radioplaque areas. An additional group of 8 relatively sizable charred fragments of bone are radiographed. None of these bear any definitive radioplaque areas. Subsequently to this exam, at this date and time, the fragments with radioplaque areas are isolated from those without. They will be subsequently analyzed and processed by Dr. Eisenberg and or other forensic specialists involved in this case. So we're going to try to wrap our head around this. So the death certificate is signed on the 10th of November of 2005. We have a note here saying that Dr. Eisenberg will be analyzing these bones. Her report doesn't show till the 17th of November. This report isn't signed until May. This is all backwards. So Dr. Eisenberg is the one that is doing these bones. Now, we do know that she has a history of misidentification of fetal bones that she said were be removed from a victim of the mother. And then it turned out that when the woman, her remains were found, she was fully intact and so was the fetus. And so someone did get in trouble with that crime based on what Dr. Eisenberg had said. So how much are we able to trust her? And let's go back up to the top there and talk about that whole idea that we're to assume. At what point are we to assume? We're basing it on 7 loci from the crime lab, so assuming the bone fragments are human and belonging to one individual, the individual is in a deceased condition. Really? How would they be in any other condition? This report is just irritating to me. I mean, I've waited a long time to get it. I was expecting it to have measurements of perhaps where these what did they call them? Defects were? Are those bullet holes, or are they just defects on the skull? Are they from the skull breaking apart? Is this one human being? Okay, let's continue with some more. Now that concludes the autopsy report, but I have got a little piece to drop in here that I want to share from the bone report from Dr. Leslie Eisenberg that we also got. We'll discuss the main portion of that on the second video. But I've got the skeletal model summary here. Now what bothers me the most is we just got done hearing that we have actual x-rays taken of the bones. Why can we not see those? No, instead, the next report is going to show us computerized digital imagery of fake items, like drawn instead of actual x-rays. So why is it that they're constantly changing this up? What are they hiding? Are they hiding the identity of this person? It's shady, you guys. They're not doing a proper job. They did not photograph where the bones originated from. They're not photographing the autopsy. They don't check that they have a body on the death certificate. Yet the autopsy is not done till May, and yet pre-autopsy they've signed that death certificate over, and we still at this point, now keep in mind this is in May of 06, and it's stating right there that we're still waiting on the reports to determine if this person is one person or many, and if indeed this person is identified by their DNA. We have timeline issues. And yeah, the skeletal model summary, this is on the next report. I slid it in for us. Based on evidence control numbers documented by the Calumet County Sheriff's Department and the reports of forensic anthropologist Dr. Leslie Eisenberg, three-dimensional skeleton models were created to depict the bones represented in totality, I can't say that word today, by recovered fragments. It is again stated and stressed that while in most cases entire bones were highlighted in the model, only fragments were located by investigators. The intent of the author was to show in a graphical format how much of the human skeleton was indicated by recognizable and diagnostic fragments. I get that, but use that backed up by these X-rays, please. Why are we not allowed to see what really took place? So you can see here I've got this little newspaper clipping. We finally found something along the line, and I just thought we'd add that in, that Calumet County Medical Examiner Mike Clazier filed Teresa Halbach's death certificate with the Manitowoc County Register of Deeds listing homicide as the cause. He said the certificate is filed in the county of death. In the county of death? And I'm going to reread that. He said the certificate is filed in the county of death. Okay. And her place of death was listed in the town of Gibson, where the Avery Salvage Yard is situated. Interesting. There's just not one report without a big error. So let's recall, not only did we not get photographs, not only do they not photograph the autopsy, we don't have any place that shows us actual evidence where these bones were found. They didn't do any, white chalk around it. They've barred the coroner. Now, a lot of people have said to me, well, the coroner doesn't go out to the crime scene. Baloney. I tell you that. They do all the time. In fact, they're waiting on the coroner in most situations for the coroner to look at the body the way it's displayed and try to add that into her report and her summary, or his. Deb Kakat, the coroner, she was threatened to be arrested by a city official, stating that it was a conflict of interest. Now, she had nothing to do with the 1985 case because there was no death. Where's her conflict? Where's her conflict of interest? If we're really wanting to talk about conflict of interest, let's talk about the original officer that arrested Steve Avery in 1985 was Michael Bushman. He was retired, but he came back out of retirement on the 7th and 8th and was taking them along, all the investigators, including the state, to lead them, considered the lead investigator out of retirement, the original arresting officer, to find bones. Now let me remind you, he owns the Pfeiffer funeral home. His wife and family do. And that's where Carmen Botwell's bones were cremated. Now, we all know that Teresa Halbach went to the Whiting Funeral Home because we have the death certificate. But let's go ahead and look at this. Do you see this little history of the Pfeiffer Funeral Home? Let's talk about why Whiting and Pfeiffer are the same place, shall we? So currently they're called the Snyder Michaels Funeral Home, but it goes into the history here. So in 1972, the Whiting purchased the Pfeiffer Funeral Home in Chilton. Yep. And that tells you that Carmen and Teresa were at the exact same funeral home. One's bones was there, and so were the others. Now, they went missing the same day, on October 31st. They're both reported dead on 11/3. Carmen at 8:30 in the morning, and Teresa around 2:52 p.m. same day, 11/3. On the incident report, it shows up as death. So let me ask you guys something. They're hiding the pictures that they're taking. As it always seems to be with this case, we are left with more questions than answers. Why did they sign the death certificate 5 months prior to the autopsy? Why did they not photograph the origins of the bones or the autopsy? Why did they ban the county coroner? Why did the state give away biological evidence of bones to the family in 2011 while agreeing to allow new DNA testing on the bones they didn't have? They had just given away. How can we trust 7 loci to be a match when the FBI required 13 loci then and now requires 20 loci or more? Why would it be an issue for the identity of the bones to be properly identified? Why are they hiding the identity of the bones? So, as usual, we're left with a lot more questions than answers, which seems to be the majority of the problem. We are finding more and more coincidences that can't be denied, and that is that we're sharing the same funeral home for the bones for both Carmen and Teresa. They're refusing to acknowledge or even allow us to test bones. They've given them away when they should have been protecting the bones. There was no pictures of the origins of the bones, and they are hiding the identity. That's what it boils down to. So, in conclusion, my theory is that there's a problem with the identity of the bones, and we all need to come to a conclusion what that means. Hopefully we will dig that out from more research. So I appreciate your time here. If you enjoy those videos that I do and the researchers do, they are incredible, you guys. They work literally night and day. I can go on to the research chatterbox and it is going 24/7 from around the world. We have people from Australia, we have people all over this world working on this case, and it is so greatly appreciated, the time and dedication that they do in getting us these forms and sharing all this knowledge with us. So I want to thank you for your time. Hit that like button if you will, and subscribe. And here we go. If you didn't do the crime, you shouldn't do the time. Thank you so much. Good night.